brothers and sisters in gaming. Welcome back to the channel. As always, I am Jonathan, your host here at QuickBird Gaming, and I appreciate you tuning in for another video. I'm going to try and keep this one together. It's about 4 a.m. I've been working on minimal sleep, but there is lots of news to talk about. And for today, we are talking about the news from the week of 19 to 26 April. And we have a few stories to talk about, including the big one that was on the thumbnail. So let's get into it. Alright, quite obviously the first thing I think I have to talk about is the release of Oblivion Remastered, which I think hit the streets either on Monday or Tuesday of this week, the 21st or 22nd, and clearly it has been a big hit. It has rocketed to 4 million players in 5 days. Unknown how many of those were sales and how many of them were accessed via Game Pass, but I don't think this was a game that needed to sell 10 million copies, obviously being a remaster of a game, but it is the Elder Scrolls franchise is so beloved. And I think this also indicates that the player base out here is really hungry for good RPG experiences. The people who like role-playing games, they really are looking for good ones. And I don't think games like Dragon Age, Avowed, and those have really kind of scratched the itch that a lot of people were looking for when you see something like this happen. Anyway, this article over on Insider Gaming, which was released on the 26th of April on Saturday, says that obviously they hit 4 million players already and things are going real well. And some other things have happened too that have been kind of amusing at the same time. You have this article from IGN, which was published on the 25th, which was Friday, and it says Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered amazes fans after 20-year-old dupe item glitch is rediscovered. Essentially, there used to be a way to dupe items in the old Oblivion. The remastered version came out. Fans went to check to see if they could still do it, and lo and behold, they could still do it, which I think is pretty funny. This was not a remake. You know, a lot of people say that because the remastered version didn't just do a graphic overhaul, but punched up, cleaned up some of the systems and things, that this was going to be a remake. But no, I think it still more qualifies as a remaster, because when you preserve your previous bugs and glitches, it really is a remaster. And they said that, you know, if you scroll down through the article, it says in Oblivion Remastered, players have found they're still able to use a version of the original's dupe item glitch, just as they did nearly 20 years ago. It allows the user to duplicate nearly any item in the game, and it's apparently pretty easy. And it's funny because if it's going to load, there you go. You scroll down and you see some of the tweets that people were saying, you know, the dupes are back. I didn't mean to do that. Scroll duping was the first thing I tried. Time to fill my house with succulent watermelons. So people are just having fun with this. Then there's this article over from Eurogamer, which was from Thursday the 24th. Oblivion Remastered includes famous voice actor Flub, and fans are delighted. And it's pretty funny because the case was that in the original, there was someone who you spoke to in the game, an NPC, and they said their line, and the voice actor says, no, wait, let me do that again. And then they say the line again, and Bethesda kept the whole sequence in this. Ironically enough, this is a character you talk to in order to gain mastery of the speech skill. So clearly it was in character that the character was practicing their speech skill. And what I think is funny, this article, like I said, was published on Eurogamer, also includes the clips of both the original and the remastered, which I'll play here in a second. And it's funny to me because in the remastered version, they actually didn't just keep the line in, they actually animated the character's face to say the part where they say, no, let me say that again. Anyway, I'll play those now.
Heavy armor. Good day. I heard that thieves broke into the Arcane University, the Imperial Legion compound, and the temple all on the same night. Wait a minute, let me do that one again. I heard that thieves broke into the Arcane University, the Imperial Legion compound, and the temple all on the same night.
Okay, clearly you have a character who's a master of speech perfecting their delivery. But then we come down here to the remastered version.
I heard that thieves broke into the Arcane University, the Imperial Legion compound, and the temple all on the same night. Wait a minute, let me do that one again. I heard that thieves broke into the Arcane University, the Imperial Legion compound, and the temple all on the same night.
Even included the character looking down to the side like they were actually practicing saying it again. And you know, this is what, to me, makes these remasters so you know, that they did such a good job with this remaster. You know, Bethesda and Virtuos, the company that were working on them, they didn't take themselves too seriously. They recognized it was a bug. They knew players were expecting it. They said, just keep it in there. It's fine. It's part of the game at this point. And so I think this is one of the reasons, you know, aside from the fact that I mentioned that people are really, really hungry for our RPG games, I think this is one of the reasons why this is doing so well, because people who played Oblivion and expected something specific in the game are getting just that. They're getting Oblivion again. They're getting to enjoy the game they knew a second time. And this is pretty much a W for Bethesda. They don't get a lot of them these days, but this one, the remaster for them, has been a win. And what is also a win for Bethesda is this article from Video Games Chronicle, published on the 23rd, which is Wednesday of this last week. Instead of shutting down remaking Oblivion and Skyrim, Bethesda gave the team Oblivion Remastered keys. And they have no intention of shutting down our project, the Skyblivion team says. If you are unaware, there were always two separate projects. I covered this a couple weeks ago in a Quick Bird News video. Aside from the official remaster being done by Bethesda, which was done in the Unreal 5 engine, there is also a team of mods for whom this is just a passion project. You know, they're obviously not being paid, they're not making any money, but their goal was to recreate the entire Oblivion game in the Skyrim engine. And they've been working on this for years, and they have announced a month or so ago that they plan to release it this year. And then there was some speculation that Bethesda was going to drop their own version, and they might demand that the Skyblivion team shut down, and instead you see what happens. Let's see. Okay, see right here, the Skyblivion project started in 2012, so yeah, they've been working on it for over a decade. When developer Zilov created an early tech demo showing what Oblivion might look like in the Skyrim engine, since it's continued to grow. When reports first started to emerge that Bethesda was working on its own Oblivion remaster, some were concerned that at some point the publisher would demand the Skyblivion project end so not to interfere with potential sales of its own release. Instead, according to the official Skyblivion account, Bethesda has gifted every modder on the team a free copy of Oblivion Remastered and assured them there are no plans to shut down their project. And like I said, that's a W, that is a win. And that is the fact that these two groups of people working on essentially the same project, just in slightly different methods, they're encouraging each other, patting each other on the back. That is a win for the players. It's class moves all the way around. I really love to see it. The Skyblivion come down here and says, huge thanks to our friends at Bethesda for continued support of Skyblivion. As massive fans, we're beyond grateful. This means so much to us. When a followed suggestion that two separate releases could satisfy a single fan base, the account replied exactly. Also, to clear up any confusion, Bethesda has made it clear they have no intention of shutting down our project. I love it. I love to see this kind of cooperation. This is great for the players, and that's usually where I lie on this. And in order to do this, in order to play this, you will need to own the original Oblivion and the DLCs and Skyrim Special Edition. So, this is going to be cool when this comes out. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't got a chance to play Oblivion Remastered, mostly because I'm in the middle of trying to finish Shadow of Mordor. I didn't realize the DLCs were going to add a complete new campaign, so I'm hung up on that. But I think I'm going to wait now until they're both out, and I'm going to try and play them side by side or back to back in order to just compare them, get all my Oblivion out at once. But anyway, so this is really cool, and I was glad to see it. Of course, not every single line item with the release of Oblivion Remastered has gone according to plan. You have this article from Eurogamer, which was published on Tuesday the 22nd. Bethesda says no official mod support for its Oblivion Remaster. And okay, so they talk about how it's been released and everything. However, Bethesda has shared one bit of potentially disappointing news, confirming there'll be no official mod support for fancy new Oblivion. I think this is probably going to affect the console players most of all, because clearly over on PC, if you just look at the Oblivion Remastered page on Nexus Mods, there are already 765 mods posted for everything under the sun for the for the game. So the PC players are clearly not going to have any problem with this. But it is a little bit disappointing that Bethesda is not leaning forward to embrace the modding community. Some people in the article or in the comments of this article speculate that it has to do with the licensing of the Unreal 5 engine, which I think is a real strong possibility. But in any event, the modding is going to be unsupported here for the first time in a major Bethesda game. At the same time, you have this article over here on IGN, which was published on Thursday, the 24th. And it says, indie publisher boss feels the pain for our team after the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered Shadow Drop sucks the air out of the room. Now, essentially, as you read through this article, this individual, whose name is Jonas Antonsen, the co-founder of the indie publisher Raw Fury, took to social media to explain how massive shadow drops from huge games like Oblivion Remastered can cause everything else coming out at the same time to get buried. But from the perspective of indies and indie publishers, this is the problem with these sort of massive shadow drops. We don't have the cash or muscle to throw around, so everything is carefully planned, including when to release, based on other releases to try and maximize their chances of getting attention. You know, they target the known releases of major IPs and titles and things that are going to draw a lot of attention, so they're not in competition. And then you have something shadow drop, which kind of throws their plans awry. And I sympathize. I feel for them. I hope that even if their games are good, I don't know what game they've dropped. If it's good, I hope it'll still continue to get attention. But this is just a reminder that no matter what happens, can't please everybody. So Oblivion Remastered, it did kind of suck the air out of the room, like they said. So let's don't forget about your indie games out there that still need some love. Okay, we also have to talk about some non-Oblivion news, and I think this is the next biggest story of the week. This article from Game Rant, which was published on Friday the 25th of April. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is already a big hit. It says that in this article it has sold 500,000 copies in one day. I'll go you one better, even though this is slightly outside the Newsweek coverage. This was posted by their official Twitter account, X account. Here we are 3 days after launch, 1 million copies sold. That was posted on early in the morning on April the 27th on Sunday. So they have already hit 1 million copies in 3 days. And this is really awesome. The Clair Obscur is from developer Sandfall Interactive, a French company of about 30 devs. I want to say I read that they are mostly expatriate Ubisoft devs who kind of struck out to do their own thing, which gives them a little bit of experience, and they have a little bit more clout, or at least credibility maybe, in the fact that they've got that experience. And this product would certainly not qualify as a AAA release. So they're not a huge studio, maybe a AA, but they put this out. It's a turn-based RPG with real-time elements. The game follows the journey of a group of members of Expedition 33 who are trying to stop the mysterious entity known as the Paintress. Everything I've read about this game, everything I've seen, people I've talked to have said it's enjoyable. It has got a pretty good feel of a classic JRPG with the turn-based combat, and it is smooth and crisp. People are really enjoying it. I think it's sitting at about a 93% on Steam. So overall, this is great. This is great for Sandfall Interactive, that their first project out of the gate is doing so well and has been a huge success. You know, it sold over 1 million copies. I would stake money on the fact that their development budget was nowhere near the over-bloated AAA games that we see coming out. So this is probably going to be a financial windfall for them, which hopefully will lead to them making more games. That is big. It's also a win for the players who get another game they can enjoy, including me. If I ever get to it, it's going to go on what seems to be my permanently growing and never shrinking to be played list. But that aside, this is still awesome, and I'm glad to see it. I should also talk about 2 games of significance and interest that now have established release dates. The first of these is Ghost of Yotei, the follow-on to Ghost of Tsushima, which did so well. In this article from VG247, written on or posted on Wednesday, the 23rd of April, Ghost of Yotei gets a wicked trailer and an October 2nd release date as Sucker Punch breaks its silence. Ghost of Yotei has finally made a fresh appearance courtesy of a new trailer filled with lovely cutscenes and a touch of gameplay, also confirmed to launch October 2nd on the PS5. The trailer, which you can watch below, introduces us to 6 antagonists we'll have to hunt down, alongside some background. They're the protagonists or antagonists are responsible for killing the main character's whole family and stabbing her in the chest a few times, so you'll be riding horses across Japan, hunting these baddies down in a tale of revenge. Hopefully this is better received and executed than AC Shadows was. I'm not saying AC Shadows was bad, but it was just there. So hopefully this goes better. Now right now this game is only set to release on the PS5. Sony has been in recent months leaning more towards getting their games on PC faster, so I expect we will see it come to PC relatively quickly. But for now, if you want to get that Yotei experience, look for it on PS5 on October 2nd. Also, we have this article over on Game Rant that was published on Thursday the 24th. FBC Firebreak release date confirmed, launching on June 17th. Now, this Firebreak is coming from Remedy, the studio which gave us Alan Wake and Control. It is a multiplayer co-op shooter, and I believe it's going to be set kind of more in the Control space than in the Remedy or in the Alan Wake kind of setting. If you're not aware, Control concerns it's kind of a paranormal shooter and action game. FBC, the Federal Bureau of Control, Firebreak. The Firebreaks were the enormous barriers between the contaminated portions of the FBC's headquarters that kind of help contain some of the paranormal elements within. So this game is coming out, and it's going to be out on the 17th. This is Remedy's first venture into the multiplayer kind of co-op sphere, into the genre. So it remains to be seen how it will do, but I'll be watching it. I really enjoyed Control. I was neutral on the first Alan Wake. I mean, it was a decently put together game, but it just wasn't I didn't enjoy it as much. Control I really liked, so I'll be watching this to see how well it does. It wouldn't be a month of gaming news without Ubisoft stepping on their own balls. This article coming from Insider Gaming, published on the 25th of April on Friday. Ubisoft accused of secret data collection in single-player games. An Austrian data protection agency has filed complaints against Ubisoft, alleging that the gaming titan behind the franchises we know was collecting data while you play single-player games while having no legal, valid basis for doing so. The agency, known as NOIAB, is leaning on GDPR to tackle what it claims is unlawful data collection. If the complaint is successful and enforcement action is taken by the Austrian Data Protection Authority, it could lead to a €92 million fine for Ubisoft. Like I said, Ubisoft just excels at finding new and better ways to put its foot in its mouth. They just cannot catch a break. It makes me wonder how this is going to affect their imminent upcoming merger with Tencent. Is this going to cause Tencent to get cold feet, or are they going to take it out of Ubisoft's hide? I don't know, but this is an issue, and it says the headline published recently by Noib says it all. Like to play it alone. Ubisoft is still watching you. They say it's forcing users to connect to the internet to play single-player games, which in turn allows Ubisoft to collect unnecessary data, and that's what they say in their statement, basically saying that Ubisoft is illegally collecting data on single players. And I think most players who kind of are in tune with what's going on with gaming companies, this would kind of be like, yeah, we know moment. This is one of the reasons this kind of behavior is one of the reasons why I am, so against having to have a Steam account and also a EA account or a Ubisoft account or a PSN account to play games. The more people you have to, more filters you have to wash through. the more of these things you have to engage in, the more your data is out there. And I know they always tell you, well, we're not watching you. We all know they are. And this apparently is the case, and Ubisoft is in hot water. And frankly, I'm not going to feel too bad for them if they get their rear end swatted over this. This is an FAFO situation, and whatever happens to them, so be it. So we also have this article from GameSpot that was published on Friday the 25th. La Quimera delayed just after reviews went live. The new game from the team formerly known as 4A Games Ukraine has been delayed with no new date announced. And essentially what it says is La Quimera was delayed. This is from the studio Reburn. The company said, it used to be 4K Games. These are the folks that brought us the Metro 2033 series. Said in a statement that the studio ran into some unforeseen challenges related to Quimera being the company's first title as an independent studio. And down here it says that was delayed after people had reviewed it. The first wave of reviews were generally not positive, with Insider Gaming it called it disappointing. WCCF Tech labeling it as short but not sweet. I'm a little disappointed in this. I had watched the trailer. It had looked good to me. It looked interesting. Kind of felt like it had a semi-Borderlands-ish type of style, and I was looking forward to it. Not from the cel-shaded arts direction, but just the gameplay style. I was looking forward to this and seeing how they did, and apparently the early reviews are bad, so they have pulled it off the shelf for the moment. We'll see what happens. But just letting you know, if you were aware of La Quimera, it has been delayed indefinitely. There's also this article over on gamesindustry.biz, which was published on Thursday the 24th of April. Steam to launch new tags to help disabled players search for games based on accessibility features. And when you read down the article, they said that basically now that when games are introduced, uploaded to Steam by the developers, there's a new questionnaire to describe the way their games support accessibility, such as adjustable difficulty, text sizes, color alternatives for people who might be colorblind, high contrast, speech to text, text to speech, custom volume controls, and so on. In other words, they're trying to get games to highlight the features that will make players of various degrees of ability and skill able to more carefully screen their games. Now, from what I understand, this is not going to be mandatory but highly encouraged, and they're also going to encourage games that are already uploaded to go back and basically add these listings. They'll be featured on the game's sidebar. Some people are already kind of kibitzing about this. I don't understand why. I think it's perfectly acceptable, and I think it's a good idea. I am all for gamers and consumers in general having more options and not less, and more information. If you feel like if you're don't have a high skill level and you want a game that can be played in easy mode, you want to know that up front before you buy it. If you are somebody who is colorblind, for example, does this game support a scheme that will make it easier for you to play? So these are all good things as far as I'm concerned. All right, I'm going to close with this one, which is equal parts amusing, flabbergasting, and infuriating. But this article from IGN published on Friday the 25th, TSA warns you shouldn't try to fly with Call of Duty Zombies Monkey Bomb figurine. And there's a picture of the said figurine there, and the article reads, if you're looking to pick up some video game inspired replicas or figurines while traveling, you might want to think twice about bringing anything that looks like a Call of Duty weapon into your baggage. And this is the takeaway from a recent post by the TSA discussing prohibited items. They highlighted this particular item as being, quote, a replica of an actual boom boom device. I am not gonna defend the TSA here. I find them to be especially humorless and unable to think on their feet, even by federal employee standards. However, their rules about getting on planes are very clear, that nothing that would be considered a weapon or even a replica of a weapon will be allowed, and they're going to follow this to the letter of the law because that's what drones do. So these people are not, you're not dealing with the brightest people who have any kind of leeway afforded to them in their job. So it goes into detail. This post goes into detail about prohibited toy weapons, including things like Nerf guns, even, that are clearly not actual pow devices. So I mean, just don't do this. I know it's stupid. I know it sucks, and I know these people are not. They're not the easiest to get along with, but you don't need the headache. So keep your monkey bomb at home, or mail him home. Okay, on that note, I better leave it there. The sun is up, and I've probably talked long enough. So we're going to call it quits for this week of Quickbird News. As always, if you enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing to the channel, dropping a like on the video, leave me a comment down below. Tell me you agreed. Tell me I'm full of it. Tell me what big stories I missed this week, so I know what to cover. And I appreciate all the engagement, even if it's just a simple thumbs up. That helps the channel and lets me know what I'm doing actually is somebody is appreciating it. So, having said all that, I'm going to call it quits here, and I'm going to shuffle off to get my day started. Thank you once again. You all, go out there and live your best lives, hopefully with no monkey bombs on the planes. And y'all stay gaming.